All right, everybody, welcome back to Matt Money. Great opportunity to work from home today. Just closed the day 5:30 or so Houston time, and it was a pleasure during lunchtime to only have to make a 5-minute stroll, and by stroll I mean drive, to my local Dutch Bros. Normally, it takes me 15 minutes, 20 minutes round trip, so 40 minutes round trip total to really go to Dutch Bros. And a lot of the reason being is, and let me just kind of bring up the slide and why, is you can see this is the city of Houston. This is where I live. And you can see this big ring over here of all the Dutch Bros on the outward part of the city. And you can see I kind of live in the western part, central part of Houston. Well, this was the one I had to go to up until literally last week. And this Wednesday, it was nice. I've been checking for the past couple weeks. I've driven by this a few times. This one that's right here, north of these blue dots here. And I've been excited for it to open up. It's literally a couple blocks away from me. And so I've been just waiting for it to open up. You guys know I'm an investor. I've been an investor for about over a year now, or close to a year now, and have done rather well with the stock. And I've just been amazed at how quickly it's grown within Houston. But as you can see, it's not really Houston city limits. It's more of like the outskirts, the suburbs of Houston. So like Rosenberg, all the way to the Woodlands, all the way to League City, Baytown, etc., but not any in really like downtown Houston. And I think it's because you have a little bit more ability to build the suite. The city is constantly expanding outwards, and so more and more shopping malls are being built out there, and so it's easy to build the suite when you're building more and more shopping malls versus interior. Obviously, things are already built out, so it's a little bit more difficult. And Dutch Bros, as you guys probably know, has a very drive-through intensive sort of model. So 2 lanes to drive through, etc. So it was nice. But the reason why I'm making this video, right, it's not to just give you the rah-rah about Dutch Bros, right? I mean, we could talk about the numbers all day that we want, right? $950 million in revenue in last year, 2023. This year, they're aiming for 1.2. I honestly think they're going to get more than that, probably closer to 1.3. Just based off of how much growth they've seen in the first quarter, blew my expectations out of the water. And obviously, that's why the stock has kind of run a little bit. But also, I think because of EBITDA, and I think they're doing extremely good work. I think they've underrepresented the EBITDA growth from fiscal year 23 to 2024. But that's also not the reason why I'm making this video. The reason I'm making this video is, as I told you guys, this was the first time I was able to go 5 minutes away to a Dutch Bros. And I've never been to a Dutch Bros and asked them in depth, hey, you guys are just opening up. Where are you guys from? Like, have you worked at other different Dutch Bros in Houston? Because as you can see on this map, there's a lot of Dutch Bros here in Houston, and obviously probably coming from a local store. Absolutely fucking not. Everybody I talked to, there was some people that were just getting hired on, being brought into the Broista program. There was somebody from California. There was somebody from Washington. There was somebody from Colorado. People that have in-store experience, and Dutch Bros flies them in, right? They take the expense, they take the culture so seriously about opening new stores and maintaining that Broista culture that they fly in people from different parts of the country to help train up the local staff. We're talking people, and it was pretty interesting. I was talking to the one guy, super chill. Always the people, the culture at Dutch Bros, as you guys know, is phenomenal. And I was talking to the gentleman, and I was just getting like more and more insight because I talked to the one lady. She took my order. She told me she was from California, and I was like, that's so amazing. She's like, yeah. She's like, I've helped open 4 stores in California. So we kind of have this program. You can join it. And they said they would fly me out, and I took the opportunity. And apparently when you open your first, second, and third store, they bring in other people that have experience, and you can be part of the team, and you can apply to it to be kind of like this culture person to help kickstart the growth of that particular store. Now, of course, after you've opened your 3rd store, right, they don't really necessarily need you anymore. You get the culture. You've been assimilated into the program. But they take culture so seriously at Dutch Bros. And I think that that's one of the big things that a lot of people get drawn to with brands these days, and probably part of the reason why people enjoy going to Dutch Bros more so than, say, your local Starbucks or anything like that. But it's just that immediate connection of just like hearing how serious they take that is something that I'm just like blown away by. And so I can understand why, you know, people are willing to pay the slightly extra higher price. People might say that the prices are out of control or what have you, but because of the quality, because of the experience, people are more than happy to get involved. And so I just thought it was very interesting. Like, they opened up on Wednesday, so 2 days ago, and they had 3 or 4 different people that I just talked to alone. Another gentleman was from San Antonio, and he'd opened up a couple stores himself. And so he was just like, yeah, you know, I'll drive over to Houston. And so it's very unique that, you know, I don't think they would have somebody from Starbucks doing that, right? Or maybe Starbucks did do that initially. Maybe I'm, you know, ignorant, and sometimes ignorance is bliss. But when you think about the quality of the product, the fact that they're growing EBITDA on a basis of 22 to 28% year over year, from 165 million and hopefully getting closer to 200 million in EBITDA. And the company's only worth 6 billion. You're paying a price to adjusted EBITDA of about 30 times. And so if that's the case, and they're continuing to open up several hundred stores a year, and their goal is to eventually open up 4,000 stores, and they have yet to get to even a quarter of that goal, it just goes to show you, you know, let's just take rough numbers. Then the revenue eventually will get to close to, let's just say 5.5, maybe 6 billion. I think it'll probably be more than that because we have yet to hit 1,000 company operated stores. But let's just say, you know, simplicity's sake, you can quadruple the revenue from here. So 5 to 5.5 billion. You can quadruple the EBITDA from here, 160 to then going closer to, let's just say it is close to 700, 800. Well, if you are then talking about a price to EBITDA for that and however long it takes you to get, right? You're talking about a price to EBITDA that's probably less than 6 or 7. And so, you know, you have to double that at least to get to where you're, you know, it's even reasonable. But to me, you know, you don't have the full, they open up so many stores so frequently, it's hard to gauge, you know, how much profit those are actually experiencing, right? Because there's a lot of loss and inefficiency within the first 12 months. One thing that I will show you, and this is probably why I am rather bullish on some of these things. Whoops, I shrunk the wrong thing. Shrink me instead. One of the things that I wanted to show you guys is, you know, we can go through the numbers all we want, right? That just doesn't matter. But this is the 12-month sort of average of company gross profit. So first quarter, obviously you're not contributing much, 17% in the second quarter after opening, 22% up to 25. And these are the stores that have been open, you know, over the past 3 years or so. So, you know, this hopefully will continue to grow as you continue to maintain a base and continue to get better and better efficiencies. But I think that that's just impressive, right? I mean, if you're able to see 29% gross margin in 2023 in the first quarter alone, that's just huge. That's impressive, right? So if you're able to just take that 29%, multiply it, you know, whatever you want, coupling that with company culture and just, you know, I just think it's something that we have yet to fully see. And I believe the same store sales are continuing to grow as well. There is some, more specifically, as two things, and then I'll end the video. I still have my shares, right? So I haven't sold that. So I want to let you guys know that piece. But also, there is some infill, so that does detract away from some of the unit volume that you might have. Like, obviously, I used to go to that other store that was 10, 20 minutes away, whatever it was. And I'm no longer going to go to that store. The store that just opened is going to get that business. And so it might not necessarily, it might be a little bit more frequent that I go now that I only have to drive 5 minutes and it's on my way home or to and from the office. So that might get a little bit more business, but at the end of the day, it's not like I'm giving double the business. So there is going to be some scavenging and what they call infill that will unfortunately, you know, eat away at same store sales growth. But overall, generally the stores end up seeing sales growth year over year. And then second, one of the things that's key is specifically for gross profit for Dutch Bros is they've already established on the West Coast. And as we know, minimum wages in the West Coast is currently undergoing threat, specifically in the service industry. And by threat, I mean from like a store or restaurant owner, right? Obviously, if you're an employee, that's positive for you to have that lower or higher minimum wage. I mean, but as you go more towards the east, there's less likelihood of those higher minimum wages. And so the gross profit, say here in Texas, for a $2 million store or $2 million in revenue store will likely be better than a $2 million store in, say, California, because you're paying the service cost a lot less. So as you continue to go closer to the East Coast, and the average is $2 million a store, $2.2 million a store, actually, if you, which is actually really good if you compare it to a lot of fast food restaurants or just restaurants in general, if you want to call it that, comparable to Starbucks even. So if you think about it, $2 million, $2.2 million store, and you continue to go east, then you're going to make more profit. Gross profit margins are actually going to increase as you continue to build out. So I'm also kind of curious as well. They have the roastery that's opening up in Dallas. I haven't heard much about that. Hopefully the second quarter earnings call would kind of touch on that. But I'm curious, if that helps with gross margin as well, knowing that all that product doesn't have to come from Oregon, right? Because that's where the current roastery is. So my anticipation is they're going to open up the roastery in Dallas. That's going to help fuel lower margin impacts and increase gross margin. I mean, in the state of Texas, and as well as a lot of the eastern states I've already opened up, like in Tennessee, and as well as Florida. But I'm anticipating at some point, as we continue to go more towards the East Coast, now that we're on Florida, we're going to continue to go north, closer to the Northeast, where a third roastery might be, and whether that would help service the Midwest as well as the Northeast as they continue to expand. And so I'm kind of curious, right? I anticipate it's going to be announced here within the next 12 months where that third roastery may be, because obviously they announced the roastery for the Texas Dallas roastery before they really even started opening up stores in Tennessee. So you can think they were opening up, and now they're more willing to go towards Florida, etc. Now that roastery is getting close to open in Texas, where will they open a store, or a roastery rather, in the northeast part of the country to help that expansion up to, say, Maine? I don't know if they're going to go all the way to Maine, or if eventually maybe you'll find them in, say, Toronto or something like that. But that's some food for thought. So anyway, 4,000 stores, it's well underway. I would say we're going to get close to, 980 to 1,000 stores. Let me just do some quick looking here. I mean, for last year, they got to 831 stores in total. At the end of the first quarter, they were at 876 stores. And so they're growing by about 160 stores a year. So I would say they might hit 1,000 total stores, this year. One thing that I'm curious about, though, is I'm trying to remember if this is a 4,000 company-operated store number, or if it's a total store number. And if it's a company-operated store number, take whatever volumes and EBITDA and everything like that I was explaining earlier, and throw it out the window, because it's going to be higher than that. Because if it's company operated stores, that's where a lot of the EBITDA is coming in. That's where a lot of the revenue is coming in. These franchise stores, they're good. They add a little bit of money, but look in terms of revenue, right? It's a fraction of the amount. You literally have about a third of the stores here being franchise stores, but they're providing 10% of the revenue. So if you think about the numbers I was providing, I was saying multiply, because we're going to have 4,000 stores, multiply by 4 or 5, whatever. I mean, if reality, multiply it by 8, because you're only at 600 stores at this point of actual company operated. So if you're going to get to 4,000, multiply that by 7, 8, and that's really the EBITDA increase that you're going to see. So, on a run rate basis, we're talking, $8 million or $8 billion in terms of revenue, maybe. And with that 30% gross profit. And when it gets down to it, it's going to be churning out money. And they're spending about $280 to $300 million a year right now in capital expenditure. in their EBITDA, if I go down to this piece, their EBITDA, it's going to be about 200. So they are spending about 80 to $120 million more on an annual basis, but they did just do that capital raise of about $300 million to be able to help give them some run room. So I anticipate by middle of next year, we're going to be looking at, you know, close to $230 to $240 million in EBITDA for 2025. And if that's the case, then you're really only outpacing, if you kind of maintain this 150 to 165 stores, you know, really only outpacing by $40 to $50 million. And if that's the case, then 2026 is going to be even better. You're hopefully going to be closing in on getting that gap. And that's where I really would like to see the company get to, is closing the CapEx gap with adjusted EBITDA. But that's a 2.5 year journey from where we are today. So while I would love to see that, I don't know if we're going to be there within the next 2 years, unless you see some massive tranche of stores coming online and this massive increase in EBITDA. And that could happen, you know, as you continue to go eastward, you know, the EBITDA can increase because of lower service costs and things of the like. But, and that's really honestly been pushing a lot of the value. If I go back to this, like menu prices, where they're opening volume, you know, all these little 2.2% sort of increases, but this menu price thing has been what's been the best in terms of giving them tailwinds, going from a 24% in the first quarter of 2023 to almost a 30% in the first quarter of 2024. But I anticipate also this labor cost is associated with minimum wage increases year over year. But I anticipate as you continue to go eastward, that impact will continue to kind of die down. But it's really cool, man. They've been able to continue to increase the amount of revenue, but their actual labor costs and things of the like remain pretty flat. So I'm pretty bullish on the company, man, and I think they do a phenomenal job. Here's a quick look at same-store sales growth, and they had 10% same-store sales growth year over year just in the first quarter. So really excited to see what the company comes up with. Some people had asked me, you know, what do you think about Bros? What do you think about Bros? Let's just take a quick look at the price. The price for the company has actually done really well over the past 6 months or so. I don't know why my monitor keeps flashing. I think it's having trouble, this connector here, but the price of the stock has done really well over the past year, going from about 28, high 28, and it dipped down. I wish I added more when it was in the 23s. But as everyone knows, you know, we've kind of been on a run in the market since the late September timeframe, when it went to, you know, $25 all the way up to 45, 43 bucks rather. And so, you know, for those of the people that have bought, you know, they've done phenomenally. I think it's a good opportunity maybe to take some profit, specifically if you're more of a swing trader. I do think you'll see a pullback, but who knows? You know, you might see, generally speaking, Q2 and Q3. This is a good slide to, oh, I just closed it. But generally, in terms of seasonality, do they have that in here? Yeah, seasonality. Generally speaking, the second quarter and the third quarter are the most premier. And so that's just something to kind of think about. And also, here's the 1.9 million in trailing AUV. You have to think these are growing. They're at 2 million. And also this includes a lot of the freshly opened stores as well. So overall, man, you know, the company is doing pretty well. I think a lot of people are concerned about Cosmix is opening and Starbucks is opening. It's like, well, these guys already have 600 company operated stores and they're continuing to grow in a massive way. So I wouldn't discount it. In fact, maybe I should look at how much each store is worth from a company operated perspective. And maybe that's how the market cap works. You think about it, maybe each store is worth like 10 million bucks. I'd have to look. It's a good question. 10 million bucks per store might be a little bullish in terms of a valuation per store. But that's currently what it is. I mean, you have 600 company operated stores about right now, and it's a $6 billion company. So then you have the 300 franchises, I guess, as well. So anyway, I'll stop rambling on. It's been about a 20-minute video, but hopefully you guys enjoy it, and I'll talk to you guys on the next one. Cheers.